Sauce from a pharaoh. I do this for my queens, rocking kingdom apparel. Sauce from the pharaoh. I do this for my kings, rocking kingdom apparel. Sauce from the pharaoh. I do this for my queens, rocking kingdom apparel.
Don't need to recount the votes. I'm here to destroy all your hopes, dreams, aspirations. It's like poetry with musical inclinations. I see you peripherally, breathe easily, step lightly like on eggshells, or see real shells. I ring bells, bling bling is green. Don't necessarily need to be seen, but I do need to be heard. In my brain I've accumulated mucho verbs. I'm taking herds to the third curve, tentacles reaching up into the suburbs. 10 o'clock, do you know where your child is at? Inside of a room, all black, grown men beats, that's where we at. As I stack chips, pockets ain't made of glass, so you can't see me dip.
Sauce from the pharaoh. I do this for my kings, rocking kingdom apparel. Sauce from a pharaoh. I do this for my queens, rocking kingdom apparel. Sauce from the pharaoh. I do this for my kings, rocking kingdom apparel. Sauce from the pharaoh. I do this for my queens, rocking kingdom apparel.
Came from the water, evaporated moisture. Wavy wave in here, I do it for the culture. Cypher, music, I do this. 2023, still moving with a movement. BK where I came from, but the BX raised me. In 2015, I became wavy, named by SB. The streets never changed me. I just work smarter, I just work harder. Wanna be Nino, so I need a Carter. So I moved to Harlem, that's where it all started. Discovered my flow, and I became a problem. Can't solve them, why would you want to? I do what I want to, you do what you can do. When it come to bars, I'm lit like a candle.
Sauce from the pharaoh. I do this for my kings, rocking kingdom apparel. Sauce from a pharaoh. I do this for my queens, rocking kingdom apparel. Sauce from the pharaoh. I do this for my kings, rocking kingdom apparel. Sauce from the pharaoh. I do this for my queens, rocking kingdom apparel.
Plus, I've got no area. I'm scarier than rebels in Somalia. Fools be thinking my last name, it's Ochoa. Supplier, mozzarella. Observe as I bum rush the Federal Reserve. Sensory overload, making you victim of my venom. Breaking down your molecular structure before I digest even. Instant paralysis. I'm crazy swift with this. You're on my hit list. I'm on your chick's wish list because of this ability to strike repeatedly. Stay coiled. Fools test this and boils. I bring freaks out at night like the gargoyles.
Sauce from the pharaoh. I do this for my kings, rocking kingdom apparel. Sauce from a pharaoh. I do this for my queens, rocking kingdom apparel. Sauce from the pharaoh. I do this for my kings, rocking kingdom apparel. Sauce from the pharaoh. I do this for my queens, rocking kingdom apparel.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome once again to our weekly podcast. I am G. Michael Reed from Belize City. Thanks to our director up there in New York City, Clinton Young, CY, doing his thing and flipping the controls. Gregory Merson will come in shortly from the West Coast. We have Lisa in the house already. Good evening, Lisa, and good evening to everybody out there. We are tonight expecting a very special guest. I believe it's going to be another one of those exciting shows. We were supposed to have the commissioner this week, but he begged out and has committed to next week, Wednesday. So next week, Wednesday should also be amazing. Of course, we're coming on to interesting times. Shortly, there'll be the election in the United States, which has huge implications all the way around. I don't know what difference it's going to make. Many people are voting for Kamala because number one, she's a woman. Number two, she's of color. And number three, she's a Democrat. There are those who support Trump, and many believe solely on a cultish kind of allegiance. I don't know that the choice itself is a good one. Not a good look on America at all, who is full of talent and bright people. I see Kamala personally as a continuation of Joe Biden's policies, which is war, 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 sending all the money over to these countries to fuel these wars. Just stop it, for Christ's sake. Just stop it, and the wars will stop. Simple. We see the situation now widening out of Palestine, going into Lebanon, and now Iran. This is crazy. And instead of trying to pull them into check and slow them down, the West is sending them arms, sending them money, sending them expertise. This is not a good place at all for this planet to be hurling towards this self-destruction. Anyway, Lisa, you had something to say? Good evening.
And good evening. Good evening, everyone at home and abroad. Thank you guys for listening in and tuning in with us once again. As far as the wars, no one likes wars. I don't care what political party you belong to or you subscribe to. No one cares for wars. Innocent people are always affected, and those are affected are usually children. So for me, it's important that we come to some type of resolution sooner because our children are suffering, and for me that's a crime in itself. And as adults we need to be able to we need to be able to come to the table and have real discussions about resolution. So
Well,
I
I hear you say that nobody likes wars, but the military-industrial complex likes wars. I'll tell you that they make money off of war. I don't know if some of these governments don't like war because it pulls them out of. Netanyahu likes war because it is saving his butt from being put out of office. No, but nevertheless, we have our guest in house, and this is more important than our discussion about that. That can continue later, and we might even be able to get Miss Marin's view on this. Um, Nefertari, am I correct? Um, your mic.
Nefertari. Good
Nefert.
evening, Jim Michael. Good evening,
Good
Lisa.
evening. Good
good
evening.
evening, Miss
Everyone.
Marie.
All right. Tell us what Nefertari means.
Nefertari is a name from one of the Egyptian queens. Supposedly, she was known as a goddess of love and beauty.
Not a warrior
I
queen.
guess
Not a warrior queen for sure.
not a warrior queen. I'm
Good.
hoping I can keep up with that fame, but I don't know.
Yeah, wonderful. Welcome to the show. We are honored that you would accept our invitation and join us this evening. There's lots we could talk about for sure. You have quite an extensive resume there. Accolades on top of accolades. Well deserved, by the way, because you have been out there in the forefront fighting for all kinds of rights. Apparently, a passion is the youth, correct?
That's correct. The youth is our future, G. Michael. I'm excited to be on your show. By the way, interviewed by no other than the great G. Mike.
Great. God is
I'm
great.
happy.
God is great. I am grateful. So
But yes, my passion is the youth because I believe that we owe it to them. We owe it to the future. All the struggles that we're going through, we wouldn't be going through it if our parents had fought before us. So I have 4 children, and so my fights in every corner is for those children and everybody else's children.
yes, indeed. Tell me, straight into the political thing. Is there on the horizon anywhere a third party, and should there be a third party in Belize?
I like how you put it in the horizon. I I am the first and only woman that has formed the alternative political party. I don't like to call it a third party. Um, it is still in existence. It's just that we made a lot of mistakes. We came in very strong. Some would say like a wild bull in a glass shop, and that wasn't very smart of us. We've suffered for it. We were not prepared when we went into the election, especially because it was in the middle of COVID. We've learned from our mistakes, and so we drew back only to prepare our people. We do have people taking classes. In fact, in November, we have a group of our young people going to do classes on political formation and political communication, because those are the areas where we're failing. And I know, because of the low results that the alternative parties have had through the history of Belize, we keep saying that the voters were not ready and are not ready. And I seem to think that, from my experience, it was the candidates and the leaders of the alternative parties that have not been ready. So I'm trying to ready my people and myself.
So again, you're talking about the alternative as opposed to the two established parties, because we have two that have been there jostling for like forever. Um, Name change it now.
Yeah, the
Not
two
just
major
that.
parties, the two major parties belonging to the status quo. That's what we're trying to break. That's what we need to break. We need the alternative parties to have a true democracy.
From which one did you find more objection, more assault, if you will, even? Which do you believe, or were they both together and trying to squash your effort?
Uh, I believe that initially, I believe that many in the People's United Party were a little bit hurt by my leaving, by the things I had to say, because of course I've always only supported the People's United Party from since I graduated university. I came along with Ralph Fonseca and that crowd. And so when I left, and the truths that I had to say really hurt some people in the People's United Party. But as to crush my efforts, I think definitely I got the most victimization and the most opposition from the United Democratic Party.
Well, you certainly are vindicated now. What are your thoughts pertaining to the position they're in?
Vindicated. You want to explain what you mean by that, G. Mike?
you can look at it now and say, "Aha, bae, who's laughing now?" Because certainly they're in shambles, to say the least.
Yeah. It's sad. I take no pleasure in looking at what is happening to the United Democratic Party, because it hurts the democracy of our country. The same that I think I said before, a little after election, when people were saying that I'm silent and I've gone back to the PUP. I have not gone back to the PUP, but in all honesty, if Prime Minister Briceño and his administration makes it, if they succeed, Belize succeeds. If they fail, Belize fails. So after election, I believe that we must all support whatever government is in power, because it is beneficial to us for them to succeed. And I really want them to succeed, which is why you see that I came on board and assisting with different projects under New Growth Industries and now under Blue Economy, because if they succeed, if they're victorious in the projects that they're proposing, our people are victorious, and we have to put politics aside after elections and support each other. I honestly believe that's why I live by it.
Well, to their credit, I mean, they obviously brought you in as a consultant, if only at that, recognizing that you have something to offer. So you seem also willing. Would you be willing to work with whichever party is in there, even if your party does not get in?
Would I be willing? Sorry, you broke up
To
there.
work even if there's a change of government. Say, for instance, the UDP would come in and they would say, Nafitiri, would you also assist us in this area? Would you be willing to step forward also?
Of course, J. Michael. I honestly believe that after election, we must all be belligerent. I don't believe that we should continue this nonsense about victimizing each other because we belong to a different party. We should all be interested in the success of our country, in building wealth. And I keep saying that we need to build wealth and we need to do it together. If we're divided after election, then we see this pulling at each other and the crab in the bucket mentality, and that needs to finish. In this day and age, we can't live like that in Belize. So I am willing to support anybody that is in government, even if I am not in government, of which I do hope to be someday soon.
You spoke of working with some of the youth. Do you see an interest among young people in wanting to grow up to become involved in the political arena? Is there enough interest out there?
Sadly, I have not found. More and more, it breaks my heart to hear our young people say that they want to leave Belize, that Belize does not have enough to offer them, and it's heartbreaking. More and more I hear, politicians are dirty, they're only in there for the money, and hopefully we can change that soon. But this is the example we've given them year in and year out.
It's funny. I was listening to Prime Minister Briceño the other day, and he was talking about. I'm getting an echo here. I don't know where. All right, he was talking about. I'm getting an echo. I don't know where this is coming from. About corruption being only a perception. Now you say you would hope that that perception is removed, but obviously we're going to have to. It's more than a perception. Don't you believe that there is much corruption in there?
There is much corruption. It's not. I have to disagree with Prime Minister Briceño. The corruption is real. It's in our everyday life, but I will say that I found more, if not equal, corruption in the voting population. The voters are pushing the politicians to be corrupt. If I visited 100 homes, at least 80 of those homes asked to be paid for their votes. Mm-hmm. And when that is a reality throughout our country, then when a politician is voted into power, the first thing he does on the first day he sits behind his desk is try to figure out, where am I going to get the money to pay the votes that I need for the next election? And that is our reality. And so they will do anything to be able to stay in power. That is the greed. That is the voters are breeding corruption, and the politicians are going with it because, of course, it's comfortable for them.
I have to agree with you.
You're blaming, in that regard, we're blaming the voters for the politicians' action.
Let me welcome Gregory. Gregory is jumping in straight like that. I don't know. You deal with that. Deal with that, because he's accused. He's saying something there that I don't know. Go ahead, Greg. Repeat that from me again.
What she's saying. I hear what she's saying, that the corruption is throughout the entire society. The people, the politicians, but we cannot blame the people for the corruption of the politicians, because we
cannot excuse them either, Gregory. We cannot just turn a blind eye and say it's not happening, because it is.
No, we can't.
Gregory, nice to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you finally, and you jumped in there very spirited.
That just got right under my skin there.
I know. I felt that, but let me explain to you. When you get a politician that does not have integrity, and the voters are pushing this agenda, that politician will be comfortable with accepting that agenda. If you notice the amount of votes that I get, and I'll tell you guys a little joke in a minute, but if you notice the amount of votes that I get, I didn't pay for not even one. I refuse to participate in that. And some people that know politics maybe more than I would say I'm the worst politician in the world. I didn't accept to do that. I refused to do it. I chose to spend my money helping people instead, and I didn't take a photo op on it. Because I do have integrity. I do keep my integrity. But what I meant to say was, it is easy for somebody who already doesn't have any integrity to say, okay, well, this is what I will do. I will pay for the vote. I will win. I will go in there and make more money to continue the same. That's what we're trying to break. But I am by no means blaming the voters. I'm saying we do have a great population of voters that are comfortable with taking money for their vote. And the politicians that are happy to do it because that is what they know. That is what we have taught them, both politicians and voters. This is what the system has taught them.
It has become a part of the status quo, actually.
Exactly.
Business as usual. In fact, I saw in Cayo, where they were questioning people, and we see this, Gregory, happens in every constituency where they have a house with 69 people living there. A house with 38 people living there. A lot with no house with 20, 30 people living there. And what can we not stop that? And that is not only the politicians, that is in the people are also colluding with that corruption. So we can't excuse that.
And that's usually the administration, right? Or the government or whoever is doing that, because there's a election and boundaries department that is supposed to verify residency, and if they're seeing an unusual number of occupants for a space with registration, it is their responsibility to investigate if those addresses
but you're flipping that. You're flipping that, because if somebody come to me right now and say, G Mike, we need you to move out of Colette because we have enough votes in here. We want you to go and register at a place in Cayo North. I'm not going to do that. So I am the one that have the responsibility to say, no, that is corrupt. I am not going to engage in that. So you cannot take that blame away from the people who are engaged in it. That's what I think.
That's correct. But when you have to look that we have a lot of marginally very poor people that
come on.
Anything.
Poverty is not an excuse.
Poverty is not an excuse. Poverty is not an excuse for corruption. And Gregory, I wanna jump in there a little bit to tell you that yes, election and boundaries should be responsible and they should be cleaning up this mess. But when you look at who is in election and boundaries, as soon as elections are finished, you get political appointees, and they have to sing to the tune to who's paying their salary, who has them there, because they can be moved with this flip of a finger. So that it's not the administration, it's not the PUP or the UDP, it's the system. It's they're both engaged in this same system, which is why we need to vote at least some alternatives. I'll tell you guys that I would never want. I have a political party that I form and I lead, and I honestly would never want to see that my political party will ever win the amount of seats that the PUP won. Because it is not conducive to democracy. It is a disservice to the democracy of our country.
I have a quick question. Is Miss Maureen, is there an actual form of or a policy for voting? And I'll give you an example. So G Mike just said if he was, if he wanted to move his vote from Colette and go to Cayo North, for instance, in our sense here, when we register to vote, that registration follows us across the country. We can't vote in another state. We cannot vote in another county. We're registered, and it's attached to our ID, to our identification. So is that something that Belize would even consider having? Because I know I understand Belize has its own registration, voter's ID, separate from a social security. So having all these different cards makes it easy to establish voting in any part of the country, correct or wrong?
Wrong. We do have like what you guys have, that if you're registered in a certain constituency, you're meant to vote there until maybe you move residence. If there's some people that rent here and there and they move, but you should have to prove that you're living in that area. It is just that the corruption is so that the PUP or the UDP won't fight it. They go to court and they take a list and they have, I'm trying to mind my language, but they half fight the thing and not really, because they know that they have done the same, so they don't fight.
And want to do the same again. And want to do it again.
And they want to do the same again. So they don't want to set a precedence in court. They always want to lose that fight. But it should be the way you say it. What's your name, Lisha?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It should really be that way. There's not much we can do if we continue with the status quo, because they are comfortable in that. If we don't make them uncomfortable by putting in new people that have some kind of integrity and are serious about stopping the corruption, it won't stop.
Did you ask what's the repercussion for voter fraud, and is there any? I've never heard anybody. I've not heard it. It's foreign.
Yeah, when we experienced it here in Cayo, and I called the attention of the police and of the people, I think I sent Channel 7 to where this was happening. And I'll tell you guys, I sent Channel 7, Channel 5, and the people from Love to say, okay, you can go film right there because they're paying for the votes. I called the police attention to it. The police said, but Miss Nancy, people poor. Why are you going against for make them help them with at least something? Help them when an election, help them tomorrow. Why they help them for election day? You understand? And the media houses, one of the journalists actually came back to me days after and said, man, I filmed everything. My editor wouldn't pass it. I won't say which one it was, but this is the situation.
I remember the OAS had sent some people to overview one of the elections, and they found blatant paying of votes and whatnot. They pulled it out, exposed it, and that was it. It died a natural death. I don't know that if we want to do better. Maybe we're happy with the way things are there, Ms. Marine.
Maybe we should consider mandatory voting.
I have a question.
And if you don't, that I think would legislate and force people to vote in their areas, to not move, because then you have to prove that you voted and in your area.
That's interesting.
It might curve the need to have to pay. I don't have to pay you to come out and vote if the law says you have to vote anyway, and there will be repercussions if you don't. Maybe you can't apply for land, or you can't apply for something, can't get your passport. I don't know what, but we have to do something about it, and I believe that the solution would be mandatory voting.
Of course, whatever we do will have to require the cooperation of all the authorities that are now in place. I don't know how we're going to convince them, knowing that it will not be in their best interest to implement such a program, though we can try. You were saying something, was it Deidre?
Yeah, I have a question. Good evening, Ms. Marin and everyone on the panel. What we just heard, and I know that you have more insight, Ms. Marin, because you live in Belize, you encounter and interact with the people more so than we do here in the States. With that being said, though, it seems like the politicians feel like they owe the voter something. So once the voter gets, whether it be money or whatever that exchange is, once the politician comes into office, does the politician still feel like they owe something to the voter as far as looking out for that their constituencies? And I say that because it seems like, from being in the U.S., that a lot of our people are very complacent when it comes to larger issues. So I just want to pose that question to you, Ms. Marin.
Honestly, I'm not going to be the most popular person in Belize after I answer your question, but they don't owe anything to the people after, as far as they're concerned. And the sad part about it is that the people accept that. The people know that you get your money on election, and they feel like they don't have the right to demand much, which is why you don't see heavy protests like you see in other countries. I am an internationalist, and I have participated in protests in various other countries. And believe me, those protests are huge. You don't go home, you sleep in a tent right there. The politicians have to listen to you. Our people know that you'll go and you'll put out some banners and you'll march around, and maybe you get harassed by police a little bit if you're lucky. And then you give up and then you go home. And the prime minister, the ministers will pass by kind of laughing at you and under their breath. And nothing happens. We cannot demand change. We cannot fight for change because we don't believe that we deserve, because we're already accustomed to that. You get paid your 100 or 300, whatever you negotiate on election day, and then that's it. And the politicians know that I don't owe you anything. I don't have to give you anything. In fact, I think, G. Michael, you should know, you're seasoned in politics. There's a list that the parties will have, and they'll have their core people that will never change. They'll tell you, okay, this is a list of core UDPs, though they will never change, so we don't have to do much for them.
Correct. Don't even have to pay them.
We don't have to pay them. We don't have to do nothing, because then live, breathe, eat party colors. And then there's another list of people that, the swing voters. They usually support us, but we can't tell, so we're going to try to buy them. And then there's the ones that you don't even mess with because they belong to the other party. You won't waste any time with trying to get their votes or anything like that.
There are people who are suggesting that the dynamics on that are changing, though. That many felt that one time it was 20.
Sorry, my mic went out. Just a second.
Okay. Take your time. All right. Yeah. I find also, too, the problem is that people are more allied with the parties than the issues. They don't look at the issue as to how it affects us, but they look at how it affects the popularity of the party, etc. I see you on mute, Nancy. Are you there? Yeah, here we go.
Yeah, I couldn't hear. My mic went out for some reason. My speaker, it's back. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, good. Yeah, so we were talking about the dynamics of the percentage of people who are loyal to parties and the swing voters. There are some who felt that there, at one time it was like 40, and 20 in between, and now maybe it's 20, and 60 in between. Do you get a feel that maybe there's a change in that somehow, where maybe the more objective voters are getting a foothold on the whole system?
I think the more objective voters, more and more, are not coming out to vote. I think we got like 60-70%, something like that, voter turnout in most of the constituencies. And it's sad, and those are the voters that the alternative parties should be depending on. Those are the ones we should have been convincing, but we failed them. The alternative parties failed these voters. We did not provide candidates that were good enough for them to believe in. In the majority, there was one or two candidates that they believed in. We did not speak their language. The alternatives were speaking anti-corruption, and we did not present a strong enough platform to convince these swing voters. And that is from my experience, from what I learned. And after the election, I self-critique all the time for every move that I make, because that's the only way I feel like I grow. And that's what I feel like. It wasn't the voters that let us down. We let them down.
I think too, Ms. Marin. Sorry, Mr. Chairman. I think too, Ms. Marin, one of the concerns most of the voters that are independent, or as those swing voters, as you're referring to them as, have, is that often the third party goes into oblivion after the election. They show up 3-4 months before the election, and then we hear nothing of them, nothing of them again, until another election comes by. And that's difficult to kind of maintain a momentum and the energy that's necessary with those voters that have these concerns and issues throughout the entire period.
Yes,
It takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of money too, though, doesn't it?
I was going to touch on that, Jim Mike. We in Belize, we have a small pool of people that can afford to sponsor the political parties.
Yes.
Of that pool, I can tell you that we only got 2 people that were willing to sponsor. And I'm talking about the elite, the rich, the ones that have the excess money to sponsor. Mm-hmm. All of them are compromised with the PUP or the UDP. But then when they get into trouble, when the PUP or the UDP are in administration, and you lose your contracts and you lose your license and you can't import, then you want to look at the alternative. But closer to election, the very administration will come and give you everything you want. Close to election. And then you'll go back to them and you'll forget that you needed to support the alternatives, for even if it's just for balance sakes. Right? Yes. So it's very difficult for us to get. I'll tell you my experience in the last election. It doesn't matter how much money we had and we were trying to pay for ads on the television. Some media houses refused us. So how do we get our word out if a lot of the media houses, majority of them, are controlled by the status quo? How do you get your word out?
But I
didn't know they could refuse your advertising.
They don't out refuse you. Of course, they won't tell you no.
They don't have time.
There's no space. Everything is filled.
There's no time.
And most of the time it is good. They buy up all of their space, I imagine.
I imagine that's what they try to make us believe.
And the media makes a lot of money around election time, I'll tell you that.
Yes. So,
Miss Marion.
Yes, tell me, Alicia.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, finish your thought.
I was going to say, so when the voters and the public and people like Mr. Gregory, who I know means well when you poke me, when you guys are saying we are silent, I mean, what else can we do when we don't have money and when the other administration comes in? I can't tell you how much people that supported us lost their job. I had to go begging to Prime Minister Briceño, and lucky he has somewhat of a heart more than Mr. Dean Barrow had. And he tried to ensure that the victimization was less this time. But we in the alternative suffer a lot because they victimize us. I'm telling you, I went through 13 years of hard victimization from the UDP that they almost bankrupt me. You know, you have to see how you can survive. All the way down to your liquor license, they will cancel from you. Your business license, they give you trouble. They find ways to give you trouble. So when you point at the alternatives and say we're silent, understand that we can't afford the victimization that is put upon us, and then the public does not support us. If I would have cried in the time that I was having the hardest time, could barely feed my damn family, if I would have cried to the public, do you think anybody would have come to my rescue? I'm on my own. My own.
Do you think this victimization comes down from the top, or do some of the people at the different levels take it upon themselves out of loyalty at the party and wanting to please the master, so to speak?
In the UDP, it came from the top. In the UDP, it came from the top. In the PUP, mostly has come from civil servants that think that they know better. But I have experienced a couple hits that came from ministers that just, I guess, have no vision and doesn't know exactly how to deal with a strong vocal woman.
Is the Belize People Front active and ready to maybe put up a few candidates in the next election, whenever it's called?
Yes. In protection of my people, I purposely made us silent for a little while because, one, I had people that were not politically educated. Everybody thinks that they had an independent mind and everybody was speaking from a different tongue. And that cannot happen in a political movement, a political party that's going to be successful. I said from the moment that I formed the BPF, I said the BPF is a political party for the future because I have participated in all the revolutionary movements around Latin America. I'm now participating in the US, in Russia. I know what is going on, and I know how long it takes to have a solid revolutionary movement. If we are going to save Belize, we need to prepare ourselves. We can't just be attacking and attacking and attacking, because that helps nobody. So the people is already, the Belizean public is accustomed to that an alternative party has to be opposing everything that government does, and that is not our job. For me, I consider that my job was to prepare the people that I will present to the public. Otherwise, I better not present anybody if I'm going to do the mess I did in the last election.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Ms. Marin, as far as the advertising and the marketing, what about have you guys have your party or any other party considered thinking of doing town halls again, small group of town halls, where you have a personable relationship with your audience and you present to them your core of who you are, what the party stands for, what you're looking for the future? I mean, sometimes a one-on-one, personable one-on-one in town halls give you a better feedback of the people that you're representing, and that same audience feels comfortable in having someone like you represent them because of that that personable relationship.
And it also bypasses the need to go to the TV media houses. Someone.
I believe that in this era, and we could have used this in the last election, we just were not prepared, sadly. But in this era of artificial intelligence, we have been taking a lot of classes and preparing people to actually make use of artificial intelligence in producing things for the media, videos, music, speeches, all of these things. We're using artificial intelligence to input what we need, and so that we don't have to use a lot of money to produce things. Because in the last election, I can't tell you how much money we spent in this stuff. I believe that social media is a huge platform. I do agree with you, Lisha, that the neighborhood meetings, the town halls are very important, because that is when you feel the pulse of the people. You need to listen and understand where the people are coming from, their needs, and what they want to see in a future government.
Getting them out and getting them involved, of course, is the challenge, because most people, and so you might need to rely a lot on Facebook, because they seem to be more inclined to visit Facebook than to a public forum somewhere, no?
Yes, and the messages need to be short. We've noticed that our people don't like to read a lot. So people will tell me, oh, you didn't put out this and you didn't put out that. And before I was thinking, what are you talking about? It's right there. You can read it. But we realize people do not like to read a lot. They like to be spoon-fed, quick information. So
TikTok.
have TikTok. I actually have tried to go back to my youth when I was doing poetry. And it seemed to captivate a lot of people. I have students from UB texting me, can I use your poem for this, for that, for presentations? And they're understanding that kind of language. So I didn't realize how much people were going to gravitate to something as simple or as poetry. But I guess it works. And so we're trying all kinds of things, though people are saying we're silent. They're not realizing what we're doing. It's kind of guerrilla tactics.
Just remember, every revolution had a poet and in the march.
And so I hear.
Are you following the story coming out of Belmopan, Miss Marin, where another woman, by the way, seems to be in some hot water? We did touch a bit on the story the other day, and we obviously did not have enough information, but it seems she gave a lot of people land at a very cheap price, and a lot of the people turned out to be family members and friends. Have you any comment on that? Are you aware of it?
Yes, I am aware of it. I have not publicly commented because I like to comment when I personally see the evidence, and I was busy with the Palestine movements, so I didn't see the evidence of that. But It's a shame, but it's something natural to the status quo to do that. They don't see anything wrong with it. They honestly, I've spoken to a lot of politicians about it, and they don't see anything wrong with it. I will tell you that I have tried to apply for land from government. I've never gotten land from government. And I've tried to apply for my macadamia project. I tested on macadamia as it grows, it produces in Belize. I need more land because all I own at my farm is 20 acres. I need more land, and I'm ignored. I'm ignored. I try.
And the land is there. The land is there, right?
The land is there. The land is there. But
we talk about growth economy, but don't you think maybe we should be encouraging our people to produce more, grow more, so that we have stuff to export as opposed to keep importing everything?
Mike, we need to encourage people. We need to grow wealth, but I believe in doing it from the bottoms up. And the way we're doing it, the big landowners are the elite, are the political elite. Our people, our working class, do not have access to land. We don't, as much as they want to say, oh, we're giving away lots. But okay, fine, a lot good to live on. But how can we grow wealth with that? They're giving our people chunk change, and they expect us to be grateful. And this does not belong to the politician, it belongs to our people. But we get a little house lot, and we're so grateful for the rest of our life. We'll vote for that politician because we feel like they gave us something. They gave us what is ours. It is their job to sign it over to us. But how can our people produce if we don't? It's the big landowners, our Chinese, our Mennonites, our expats that come to Belize, and the families of the politician. So what is left for our people?
I'm interested in the macadamia product. One of my favorite nuts, by the way. I enjoy. And you're saying it can grow in Belize? You have experimented with it?
We have the weather for it.
Yes, it can grow in Belize. We do have the weather. If you look at Hawaii, Australia, they're producing. We can produce. I proved it. I took a bottle of macadamia nuts to Minister Hyde when I went to try to apply for land to grow macadamia. I may feel like at least that may have convinced the man.
And you got no result from that? No.
No, after that day, he doesn't respond to me at all.
Yeah. Interesting. I see you also ventured into the ostrich market. Tell us a bit about that, because that is interesting. How is that coming along?
Well, I can't wait till you say it, Kai. To wait for that piece of meat bad.
The ostrich market has great potential. My intention was to farm it, to have other Belizean farmers get into it by ostrich. So, but I still have not been able to get my importation license. I have a license to keep the ostrich as a pet. The father told me that I have to go get a license, a permit, for the ostrich to breed. I didn't go because I thought it's ridiculous. If you're not giving me the importation permit, you come and try to stop the ostrich from breeding. I'm not getting into that. But it has, it has great potential. It has really good potential, especially with the risk of the cattle market falling in the U.S. We have great potential. Mexico is doing incredible. They're exporting to Europe. They're exporting. In fact, Mexico got in touch with me asking me if I was interested in expanding the farm, because all of Latin America is interested in ostrich right now. It's a red meat. It's the healthiest meat that the world has right now. The ostrich is very versatile. We use the oil for cosmetics, and they use it to orally as well as supplements. We use the leather. My husband has a leather factory. We use the feathers. We use the bones, everything from the ostrich you can make money from. Even the entrails, we make dog treats. The waste we make.
I see the eggs also. You've been you've been showing those. How does it? Go ahead.
No, I'm saying the eggs. The eggs, you can do a lot of things. You can use just the shell. You can do the eggs. You can do so much with the ostrich.
Are you going to continue? Are you going to keep pushing it and keep trying?
Do I look like the kind of person anybody can stop? Do you, Mike?
Okay. And the challenges seem to be tough, though, and I applaud you.
The challenge is tough, but God is great. When I faced the last election, hardly anybody in Belize knew who Nancy Marin was. But then I wanted to do ostrich, and the politicians kept trying to stop me, because in this case with the ostrich, it was directly the politicians that tried to stop me and are trying to stop me.
Why?
Because I really think that it's because it's me. If it was a Mennonite that came to do it, they would have gotten the permits fast and easy, especially because of the two politicians that are stopping me. They're very, very well in tune with the Mennonites and have worked together for years. And those are the two that are trying to stop me. Minister Musa gave me all his support. Verbally, morally, he was there present. He presented the project to cabinet. Prime Minister said that he's in support as well. But because of the politics, they cannot go completely against their colleagues for Nancy Marin. And it's sad because it is not about Nancy Marin. It is about bringing a new industry to this country. It is about doing something else, giving the local farmers something else to do, because
what's the financial potential of a market like that? I hate asking that kind of question, but I'm trying to see what.
No, that's a bottom line. Yeah, that's a bottom line. You have to ask that. I wanted to export the meat. The meat in the U.S., the ostrich steak, you will get it at the market for about $50 US per pound. That's a sale price, and it's a lot cheaper to produce than the cattle. They don't require as much feed. They don't require as much watering. Nothing. We hardly do any vaccinations. We do deworming just because it's a humid environment that we have them in, the weather in Belize. But that's about it. It's the easiest livestock to raise.
They're cost-effective animal. It's one of the animals that have the most recyclable resources in one bird. It's like one bird have more recyclable than any other thing made out there in the world, especially when it comes to livestock.
Correct.
Have you eaten it? Have you eaten the meat yet, Nancy? And what does it taste like?
Of course.
I lived in the U.S. in my younger years. I lived in the U.S. off and on for about 11 years, and I would volunteer in ostrich farms that I found in California. There's some in New Mexico, in Arizona, in Texas. You can find them all over the place. So I was always very excited about ostrich, and I always saw the potential for Belize. So yes, I've eaten it. The flavor is like beef, but it's softer. It's healthier. It doesn't have as much fat, so you can cook a steak in like 2 minutes because it's very lean.
You were talking about exporting to Mexico and the U.S. Let me ask you. How about the market in Guatemala? Do you think we should pursue that? And how would you feel about us now trying to establish some kind of good relations?
Yeah, I didn't say export to Mexico. Mexico is where I'm trying to get from. I'm trying to get the seed stock from Mexico. I'm saying that Mexico has asked us to help them produce, because people like Guatemala, El Salvador, Nicaragua, the rest of Latin America are interested in purchasing ostrich. They're interested in buying the meat.
Okay.
And so it is great potential. And Guatemala is our next door neighbor. Anything that we ship to Guatemala is overnight. It is very easy. They have a bigger population and they don't have ostriches.
Did you see the speech by the Guatemalan president at the United Nations last week?
I did.
What are your impressions? What do you think? I mean, was it a positive?
I always like I don't think it was promising. I think it was diplomatic, and we can appreciate his diplomacy. But it is no comfort to me. I am a person that I believe in action, and if you guys remember, I was the first person to plant a flag at the Sarstoon when I faced the gaff out there. It continues. Will Mejia continues his struggle out there. The struggle continues in the Chiquibul with all the incursions, and nothing is being done on our side or on the Guatemalan side. So his words are nice and diplomatic, and we appreciate it, but come better than that.
What would satisfy you? What do you think we should expect from him, other than to say that we want to pursue a road of peace?
I'm a nationalist. The only thing that will satisfy me is for them to drop our claim. Drop the claim.
That's what I said.
Well, we are before the court. He has said that he will respect any decision that comes out of the court. Would you not believe him?
I mean, if I was going to face the court, I'm going to say that too. You want to stay good. You want to be the good guy. You're going to say that. It's diplomacy. But what Belize, our politicians need assertive diplomacy. We don't need any wishy-washy diplomacy. And that's what we've been giving Guatemala, wishy-washy, in fact, all over the place.
How do we get more assertive, though? How do we get more assertive? Certainly we can't do it militarily.
We can't. We can't, because sadly we're a smaller. We have to realize the reality of it. Our reality on the ground is that we're a smaller country with a military that we have not invested in. We have not invested because we depend on other countries to give our military donations and charity, and we have not invested in our military like we should. If it was me, now that the president was so nice to give that very nice and eloquent speech, I would have immediately set aside the time to meet with him and say, all right, well, since you want the best outcome, let's discuss and negotiate what it would take to drop the claim. Because we can negotiate and trade with them. We can say, okay, we're more beneficial to you to trade. We have access to CARICOM. We have accesses that they don't have. And we would be more beneficial to trade with them and be a good neighbor and work with them because they need it. But in this case, his words were nothing to me. I meant nothing.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I said the same last week.
I don't. I actually believe that it's one of the biggest developments since 1993. When Serrano did a
he gave a 2-minute speech about Belize in his whole 26 or 24 minutes.
I don't care if it was 2 seconds. It is more than has ever been said before the body of the United Nations. I think it was a very big deal.
Mike, let me tell you something. The previous presidents couldn't say that because we were not at the ICJ. So how could they say I'll do whatever the court wants me to do? Or whatever.
No, but he could have said we want to follow peace. We want to promote peace.
He could have made an even greater gesture and say that he'll stop his military from harassing or.
Well, here's what he did do. Here's what he did do. Here's what he did do. He referred to Belize as a neighbor. That in itself is suggesting that when you're not a part of Guatemala, you're a country on your own. That, I think, is very important. And we need to be looking for the positives in this as opposed to be picking it apart and looking to give horse in the mouth. I think that it was a very big deal, and we should make more of it than we're doing, as opposed to tearing it apart. And what are we going to do? Fight them? What is the alternative?
We can't fight them. We have to. We have to negotiate.
Has to be diplomacy.
Yes, but we need to be assertive in our diplomacy.
In what way? Every time something happens, they write a letter to the OAS, to whatever body needs to be addressed, and object. I think there's not much more than that we can do except send out the military, call up the reserves. What know what I mean? Do we have them? Are they standing there ready? Are we going to send our children to war?
It wouldn't be a war.
And I don't think we can even think about a war. We shouldn't be thinking about a war.
Yeah.
Well, the only two alternatives is peace or war. We see what's happening, no? And let me welcome Joe to the show. Joe, good evening. We're talking to our guest, Miss Marin. I believe you're familiar with her.
Yes, I am, and good evening to you all. After a long period of technical problems.
You're trying to get on. You look tired and haggle like you're really work you hard.
I've been at it.
Yeah. Well, we're good. You're in. We're on there. No, adjust your camera or nothing. You're looking good.
No, touch it. No, touch it.
No touch nothing. Yeah.
No, it's not the camera. What happened? I was using the desktop. The camera was working good. Everything that went down. Mm-hmm. Then I came for the laptop. And I had a problem with it.
You're in. We're not worried about that. Yeah. Nancy, tell us a bit more about the medical electives. I see you're involved in bringing students to Belize. Is that it?
Yes, our company has existed for 25 years now, and what we do is we have contracts with two major international partners, Kaya Responsible Travel out of the UK and Intern HQ out of New Zealand. And what they do is they deal with all of the marketing. They go to the fairs. I come online. If I can afford it, I go to some of the trips. And we work with about 38 universities around the world, including some of the majors like Harvard in the States, I think Northeastern University, Michigan State. In the UK, we work with Oxford. In Ireland, we work with Queen's University. So a lot of different schools around the world. And what happens is that they send their students to do their medical elective programs here or their medical rotation within our hospitals or the village clinics. It's different programs that we have. We're especially trying to push the mental health units right now.
So I imagine you would be in support of the medical hospital that they're building at UB and the School of Medicine. What are your thoughts on that? Have you followed up on the happenings there?
I'm definitely in support that we do need one especially for our local students, but it can include international students as well. I think that would be ideal.
On the grounds of UB or on the $6.5 million property?
No, I think that it should have been at UB. I think that was the ideal location, and I do believe it would have cost us a lot less. And God knows we need to spend more on things that are worthwhile.
Miss Marin, I have a quick question. Recently we've seen numerous posts on social media, specifically Facebook, of raffles, GoFundMes, dinner sales for all sorts of illnesses in Belize. How, as a representative of a party, how would you view that in your position? How would you take control of the healthcare for the locals in Belize?
I believe that there is much more that we can invest in healthcare, especially because through medical electives, we really see the lack of equipment, of supplies in our hospitals on a regular basis. Whether it goes out to the public or not, it's something that needs to be addressed. I don't think that enough budget is put to the health system. It breaks my heart, and I know I have to be real and know that we will never eliminate poverty, but some of the sicknesses that people are begging for assistance for, I believe that our national health care should be able to deal with it. Sometimes people come to me and they go to Carl Huchner and they have a huge bill. They come up with a huge bill, and they don't know what to do, and they come to ask for help. And of course, I cannot afford to help everybody, but every single time I have called the Ministry of Health finds a way to waive at least some of the fees. I have to be honest about that and say, I believe it's that people do not know that they have this support and that they can ask for it, and that they have the right to request assistance, from government, from the health departments, and they don't know it, but we do have that that safety net for people. It does not cover everything, but it does cover whatever services Carl Huchner has to offer, whatever services our hospitals have to offer. It does cover that you do not have to take the full blunt of your bill. You can ask for assistance. Aside from that, it is very difficult because it is a poverty issue. It is an issue that our people are not earning enough. Things are too expensive. Belize is one of the most expensive countries that I have traveled to in Latin America as far as food, groceries.
And it keeps going up.
Go ahead.
It keeps going up, I say. It's going.
It keeps going up. It keeps going up. So the small increase that we got on minimum wage, I don't think it balanced out as we would have liked to, because the prices of goods just keep going up. The price of electricity just keep going up. So if you have to keep your electric and your water on and food on the table, and one of your kids gets sick, you're really, really in a dilemma. It is sad and it is heartbreaking.
The choices are hard to make.
Exactly. Like what are your choices? Especially when we came out of COVID, I can tell you from my personal experience, I depend on tourism and the travel industry. And during COVID that broke, if I didn't have my farm, I really don't know what I would have done with my family.
Some people think we are not yet out of COVID. We are still suffering the long-term effects.
Trust me, financially, I'm not out of COVID yet. I do as much as I can, but COVID indebted us quite a bit.
It affected us a lot of ways. Are you following American politics? I know you lived there a while, so.
I follow. I try not to get involved in the political life of America, but I do follow a bit. And you're gonna ask me who I support. I do not support Trump. Sorry.
Okay. No, that's all right. But I'm thinking that
I would support the Green Party, but I know that they're lagging behind.
You speak of the Palestinian issue, and obviously you've been outspoken about that in your condemnation of the genocide that's happening over there. Do you think there's going to be a difference in the situation, regardless of whichever candidate wins? I mean, you have Trump, you have Kamala. Is it gonna affect?
I don't believe any of the two will bring any relief to Palestine. That's a sad reality.
And what can be done at this time? What do you see happening? We see the war expanding now to the point where Iran has launched attacks against Israel, and they're of course they're vowed to retaliate. No, America has vowed to back them up every step of the way, and I think it would be the best case scenario if they would decide to just dry up that funding, and that would kill the war right there. They can't do it on their own, no? So
this is true. I think that would be the best case scenario. I do want to give a little story. I go every year to the Labor Party convention in Mexico City. And every year I try to meet with a different group or groups so that we can network with our party, and learn from them, lean on them, get some support. And this year I decided to go into the Palestinian committee meetings, because I was sitting on the fence. I am the president of the Lebanese Belize Diaspora Association here in Belize, and still I was sitting on the fence. And I didn't want to get involved, and I didn't want to get vocal. So it was only till recent I got vocal. But I sat down with these guys from the pro-Palestine movements and listened to their story, and everybody was asking more about the political and the solutions and this and that. And I asked one question that made me make up my mind. I asked the director, I said, what was it like for you to grow up in a refugee camp? And it broke my heart. This man who is now 50, whatever, 55, whatever his age is, in the 50s, grew up all his life in a refugee camp where he doesn't know what it was to have a toy, where he had to get a job in a Coca-Cola factory in Jordan since he was 7 years old, and watching the Israeli children wear nice shoes and nice clothes and have toys and can eat a candy. He had any of that. His childhood was stolen from him. When he took his shirt off to show me the bullet holes, the scars on his body from spending 5 years in an Israeli prison, when he told me about, other colleagues that they got their sister and their wives raped in front of them, this is no life for human beings. That is no life for this. For a child, a 7-year-old should not be getting a job to help support his family and watching other kids have toys and have food and have shoes on their feet. And that is what made me make up my mind. Not the bombs. The bombs are bad and they shouldn't be happening. But to have generations of children living that way, living in fear that a bomb is going to come, living in fear that they're going to come and grab your mother and rape her in front of you and take your father to prison and you don't know about them. This is breaking family. This is breaking generations of a population that did nothing but try to survive.
I remember. You go ahead.
For me, it hit home because my grandfather's family are still living in Duma and in Beirut, and to see that their families are being destroyed too, that they can't find their siblings, it is disgraceful that this time and age the world will tolerate such a war, will tolerate this genocide.
I think what a lot of people aren't understanding is that this did not happen. It did not start October the 7th. That refugee camp that you spoke of, I remember Bishop Desmond Tutu going to Palestine during the time when South Africa was under its rough apartheid regime, and going back home and saying he believed that the Palestinian people had it worse than they did in South Africa. And that really that struck home for me. And I'm saying, how could the world just turn their head, just not care, just don't even give it a second thought that people are living in such inhumane conditions? So I think
Mike, I think our people in Belize really need to open their eyes and stop listening to the CNNs and the ABCs and really
MSNBG,
because it's screen smoking. It's not telling us the truth. We need to start thinking with our own heads. If you look at my Facebook page and how many of the religious fanatic people in Belize have attacked me for supporting Palestine, it's incredible that you can tell me that you believe in such a God, and then you will think that the chosen people of God are doing these horrendous things to children and to women, taking men away from these men. Pardon?
Is this really an issue for Belize?
Oh,
what?
I don't.
Gregory,
let her answer my question.
I don't believe you asked me that, but let me answer you.
No, I ask it for a very specific reason.
I am a humanitarian. I am a mother. And if one child in the world is touched, that is my child. That is my child. If one child is hurt, that is my child. And is it a Belize issue? Hell yes. It's all of our issues. These are human beings. These are not Belizeans or Palestinian or Lebanese. These are our people. We are one brotherhood. If you believe in a God. No, you're going to tell me you don't believe in God, then that's your problem. But we need to believe in humanity.
Yeah, you went the right.
Get me passionate Panawan, Gregory. It's all of our business.
You went the right direction with them on that one, though, because you must have sensed that coming. Yeah. But Gregory, really, it's like when South Africa was having the problem.
I just wanted to ask that question. I do realize that humanitarian issues are everyone's concern. I just wanted to ask that question.
But why? Why did you feel the need to ask that question?
Well,
yes, and
I believe it is a Belizean issue.
There's a wider context.
I believe it is a Belizean, and it's but the reason I ask it is Belize have so much other problems in its own context, and then we extend ourselves to this type of issue that really doesn't bring any benefit to what's happening in Belize.
I don't know. And again, looking at it from a humanitarian point of view, we are humans first, then Belizeans next. That is what I think. After that, you can go with your religions and whatever group you want to put yourself in. But first and foremost, we are all human beings. We share one little planet, you know. We have our different nationalities and whatnot, and what injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere, and I sincerely believe that. So just to address that, no. But I really think that one disgraceful situation. I can't see how the rest of the world, the entire world is saying to this man, stop it, cease fire, stop the killing. Stop. And he's saying, well, you know what? I don't care what you say. We're going, and then this beacon of hope, this United Nations to which you belong, and you might say, well, you need to be concerned, are saying, how much more you want? 6 million, 6 billion, 68 billion? You want more tanks? You want more guns? Stop, I want you to stop, but here's some more stuff to keep it going. I think it's a dreadful situation. I don't know how we could not be involved and not be concerned about that. But that's my way, of saying that. So, Nancy, what's next for you? Well, I know you're into tourism. Do you believe that? You're into tourism and sustainable development. Can those two go hand in hand, or is one going to work against the other?
No, I think it can certainly go hand in hand. It's just required that our legislators will find a medium balance. And I think pretty much I have to say that I think the PUP is doing a pretty good job in creating that balance at the moment. There's of course always a lot more.
Give me an example of where they are creating sustainability in tourism, because I don't see it.
If I may interrupt, I would love to hear more about the Cultured Pearls Project, which is a sustainable initiative that Ms. Marin.
Which was the example I was going to give. So with Blue Economy, I think this one of the major examples that I have that we are doing tourism and in a sustainable way. The pearl farm, we have actually identified species that we can use for cultured pearl farming. It is sustainable in that we would no longer be extracting, and extraction from the sea is something that is detrimental to our waters, to our natural environment. And so we will be creating farms where we can farm the oysters for pearl. There also, with presenting this project, we have gotten, I think, 2 international interests in oyster for meat. With that, there's visitations that from tourists that you can provide at the farms. We visited one in Mexico, in Sonora, where buses and ships of tourists come to visit. They visit the farm. They buy the pearls. There's products from the shell, from the pearl. There's the meat. A lot of things similar to the ostrich. I found it very similar in the versatility, in the vision. It's a huge vision, and incredibly, we have it. We've been sitting on it, and we hadn't looked that direction.
Our waters are conducive to this cultivation.
Yes,
we're good
yes,
for that.
Yes, it is. The salinity and the warmth of the water is conducive to the oyster farming.
Wonderful.
Mr. Chairman, can I comment at this point?
Please, sir.
There was some issues that were raised before, but I won't go back to them. One in particular, when I think the good lady mentioned about poverty, that we will never be able to eliminate it. I would like to have that discussion another time, but I am convinced from all the evidence the world has given us, we can eliminate poverty. I think Jeffrey Sachs has proven that, though. But in connection with sustainable development, I don't know if the points that you were raising just now is relevant to sustainable development in the sense of, using tourism. The Belize is noted for its nature-based tourism. Mm-hmm. We are not like maybe the Bahamas and some of those others. They are mostly artificial, but Belize is nature-based. And the study that was done for Belize, which is paid over $1 million for, is showing where we are in fact posing a great risk to this nature-based product, because we are now impacting the ecosystems with cruise ships. So the study did show that the amount of people that are coming in through the cruise ships, and the ratio then was 4-to-1, that it took you 4 cruise ship tourists to make 1 overnight. But the risk that we are posing to this nature-based product is that the cruise ships are impacting it negatively. Correct. In fact, the one in the south should have never been what it is. That was for a packet-sized ship only of 800. So I believe that given the study that was done by government, and I'm speaking of government, I want to make it clear in a generic sense. I'm not referring necessarily to PUP or UDP. I don't think that we are in fact carrying out sustainable development in tourism, because why are we willing to impact our nature-based product with overnight tourists, which we are not giving much out anyhow? Secondly, I would say this, that what makes Belize so vulnerable, and we are highly vulnerable to external shocks, is because we have never allowed our economy to be so dependent on tourism. Okay. Tourism is highly vulnerable. Mm-hmm. So I would say again that to be boasting about the amount that we are making, but when you look at the cost and what could happen to tourism, right. So I would ask that maybe, as your interest that you are showing, I think we need to ask the government to take a look of pushing OM cruise ships to the extent they are. And to the extent too that if you notice, like in San Pedro, much of our hotels, when you take the total amount of rooms in this country, much of them are not owned by Belizeans. So much of that money is not even coming to Belize because they are kept outside. Mm-hmm. So it may look good.
Getting taxes on it.
Yeah. So I would say that I would not be the one to tell you that I think that we're having a sustainable development in tourism. I think we need to step back and take a look.
Mr. Koye, I agree with you, and I do believe that when the father of the nation, Mr. Price, had spoken on the same issue, saying that tourism would make slaves of our people, that is the reality. And when I say we're taking steps into sustainable development, sustainable tourism, it is a development in a whole. Before I had anything to do with assisting the government with these consultancies, it was all extraction. We're bringing the concept of farming now to the sea. We're bringing it to tourism. Agrotourism is one step to the right direction. And of course, it's not all perfect. And I totally agree with you about cruise ship. I totally agree with you about this nonsense that majority of our tourism destinations are owned by foreigners. Majority of our food industries are owned by foreigners. We have lost our food sovereignty in Belize. Those are some of the topics that I have been very vocal about. And we have to regain it as Belizeans. We have to, these are the things we have to fight for: our food and economic sovereignty. We do not own our central bank. We don't own our agriculture industry, and we do not own our tourism industry. Back in the day, I remember when we had things like the Macal Cooperative that was owned by local farmers. Those were steps to the right direction when agriculture was the backbone of our economy. You know, we were producing our own milk, our own cheese, yogurt, orange juice. I remember to the early 90s, my grandfather's farm was still delivering to Macal Cooperative. We were doing good, but then the era came where the Mennonites got smart and they started to invest in our politicians. They came in as farmers and ended up being the ones with all the concessions to bring in. They did commerce instead of farming. Before they did farming, they did commerce. They're the ones bringing in all the tractors. If you look right now with the corn, I don't know how much you guys know about agriculture, but I grew up on a cattle farm. I know what it takes. When you look at the corn, for example, our local farmers have to go and buy the seed from the Mennonites. Then they have to employ the Mennonites tractors to go plant their fields. Then they'll employ the Mennonite farmers to harvest the corn. And then they will store it in the silos of the Mennonites and dry it with the Mennonites. And then when they want to sell their corn, the price drops. But when they want to buy the seed, the price is sky high. This is criminal to the agriculture industry and to our local farmers. But why does it go unnoticed? Why are the Mennonites doing aerial spraying that is affecting our crops and our land? Why are they allowed to deplete the soil without giving it a rest? It is because they have invested heavily in the politicians and our voters. These are conversations that are not had. These are conversations that nobody's talking about. So our people are feeling, our farmers are losing because they make loans so that they can plant and expect a good harvest, and then the Mennonites drop the price. We have lost our food sovereignty. Those are conversations that are more urgent than the politics, but we're not having them. So I'm grateful that Mr. Koyi brought up these issues because it gives us the opportunity to have these conversations.
Well, the Mennonites, to their credit, industrialized the industry and started mass producing as opposed to. But can't we then maybe look at it as us Belizeans still producing what we need to sustain our lives?
Not tell me that, G Mike. G Mike, you could go tomorrow. Go tomorrow for me, G Mike, and go to Baja and go to Ministry of Agriculture and ask them that you want to import feed. The Mennonites are importing the supplements for feed. Go and see what they tell you. You cannot get an importation license to import these things because they're compromised with the Mennonites. I'm not asking you, I'm telling you because I went. I'm telling you. The Mennonites had what, 50 years duty exempt to bring in things for farming. They didn't do that. As much respect as I have for Mr. Price, they fooled Mr. Price. They started bringing in tractors for sale and equipment. And our people, and you look at the prices that they have compared to the prices you can get in Miami, in Russia, in Europe, in Germany. You pay less for a tractor in Germany and ship it to Belize than you will pay for it from Spanish Lookout.
But isn't the answer then to tax them heavily on this kind of stuff?
Well, they're apparently paying taxes, but listen to this, G. Mike. You go to try to purchase a property in Spanish Lookout to put a business, they'll tell you hell no. But look at how many Mennonites are allowed to purchase property outside. For God's sake, they own all of our Pine Ridge. They own the Ball Hills. And I'm not blaming them. They're business people. They're taking advantage. They're raised and bred to make these, it's good business. I am blaming our politicians that should be protecting our people. I'm blaming our politicians that should be saying, okay, you will be tax on this, you can't, control prices. You can't charge over so much percentage. You can't charge 300% for something that you're going to sell to our people. You need to put controls to protect our people. So it's not the Mennonites' fault. They've done great for themselves, but why are we allowing them to drain the chemicals that they're using on their farms into the Belize River? Why are we not looking at what kind of chemicals they're spraying? Do you notice that how much disease, like I think who was it, Miss Lisha or Miss Ditra mentioned about the sicknesses and people being sick. We've never before seen the amount of diabetes and cancer and skin disease and lupus in this country. Don't you think it's coming from the agriculture, from the farms? But yet we applaud them and we say, oh, they're commercialized agriculture, job well done. But the effects that is having on our people, the kind of one of their chickens will take a couple weeks maybe to be mature to kill. What are we eating in that? What are we eating in that? The amount of hormones that they're pumping into the animals that they're selling us, I doubt that they're eating their own products, but there's no control.
That's it. We don't have no regulation. You think it's not proper then?
There's no regulation, and even if we have regulations for certain things, they bypass it because they have invested into
political
the campaign of the politicians. So the politicians owe them. The politicians owe them their career.
I think that, we owe it to ourselves to look at this carefully and not allow them to just monopolize, in particular, some of the industries that they are monopolizing. I saw a story tonight about the motorcycles that they're selling, almost a commercial, and we see the amount of deaths that are being caused by motorcycles out there. And I thought this is where the story was going, but they were actually promoting the sale of the bikes and applauding them for bringing it in and making it affordable to Belizeans, and the fuel costs and all of that. So, what can we do?
With those things that they're importing, G. Mike, I mean, if I was in government, I would be checking where they're getting the tires from. How many tires you buy today and burst on the street from you? I'd be checking where are they bringing these things from. Because a lot of the things that are being brought in that look new and shiny are rejects, are factory rejects, and we're paying top dollar for it, and nobody is checking it. Nobody is checking these things. And I'm not just talking Mennonites. I'm talking, people that are anybody. The regulation needs to be for everybody. I don't want anybody to think again, because I've already been called racist because of my opinions with or food sovereignty.
That same conversation, Miss Marin, earlier in another discussion. As a matter of fact, in a town hall, when the new administration just started, and I brought up to them the information I had on hand with the purchasing of motor vehicles to Belize, that some of these vehicles are salvage vehicles. They don't have what do you call it, the bag. They don't have the bag to protect you, the airbags. Some of them don't have seat belts, and I made it very clear to them that if they didn't enforce the quality of vehicles coming into Belize, we would have a lot of victims of accidents eventually. And since that time to now, the amount of accidents in Belize is really crazy. I mean, we've even had to rent a car once where the tires were so bald, we had to return the car 20 miles out of where we were. So these are things, regulation in Belize is very poor. There's no standard in making sure that there's a policy to checking these vehicles every time they come in.
Do you see a parallel between how the Mennonites do business and how the Chinese operate, or are they is one better than the other, or are they basically along the same line of taking advantage of the consumers?
They're definitely on the same lines. I mean, we're looking at how much we're paying for food, and which is why I said Belize has lost its food sovereignty, and this is This is the fight we need to be having. We need our food sovereignty back in the hands of our people. You can't go anywhere in any town or village in Belize and find one of those moms or pop shops. And now they've gone into hardware as well. And it's not their fault. They're looking to make a living. They're looking to get rich. They're looking to build their wealth for their children. We are to blame. Belizeans are to blame because we don't have what it takes to damn stand up. To stand up. I'm running out of ideas of how to explain to Belizeans that it is not about PUP or UDP. It is about we are losing our country. We are losing our country. I don't want to call them Chinese because the Asians have taken all the grocery and hardware stores now. You know, here in Cayo, we used to have Selina's store. We used to have the hardwares and Pia's store, and there were grocery stores, and they were fair with prices. And Belizeans could go in and get a little credit and, you know, repay back and stuff. It was a nice situation, I think, in groceries when I was growing up.
I agree with you.
The Asians have taken that part of our food sovereignty, and the Mennonites have taken agriculture. So what do we have? What do we have that is ours?
Can I make an observation at this point?
Please do.
We have less than 4% of the population. And in that less than 4%, evidently, and I'm not wanting to be sounding discriminatory in terms of...
when you say we, who you mean? The Creole?
I'm saying that there's about less than 4% of the population.
Of who? Who is 4%?
Well, if you allow me to, that's what I wanted to come to, but I need to say it. I'm saying less than 4% of the population has taken over the commanding heights of the economy. In merchandising, merchandising has become the commanding heights. That is where the big profits are. Evidently, it's also where the big evasions are, where we are not collecting the right amount of taxes. Evidently, there's also the shoddy goods coming in there through the Panama Free Zone from China. But I'm saying these things because the lady did point it out, and I don't want to be singling out, but the truth about it, we sold out our merchandising sector to them. And now they are controlling the economy, and because of the high returns, it has this incentive for people to industrialize and go into agriculture. So I would say the solution, I would say for us, and those who are interested in promoting and getting involved in government, I think we should come to the realization that to lessen the vulnerability of this country and those external shocks, that we should seek to industrialize the economy. Over 90% of what this world produces is from agriculture. And that's a fact. Belize is gifted with the wealth untold. But unfortunately, we are not valuing agriculture. And what we need to do is to springboard it through the state. Let government get involved. Every developed country in this world, every one of them, including the United States, had never be where they are if it wasn't for the state springboarded industrialization, because the private sector just couldn't afford to invest. So I am saying then, why can't we? I have given a strong paper and argument with the present government while in opposition that the state can afford to have a public company. What the Prime Minister before did, the concept was good when he opened the company, the public company. Of course, he selected who the shareholders he wants, and he guaranteed the dividends, and he gave them tax exemption on the dividends. But then that was for importation. What I'm saying, that the state can in fact create and springboard the industrialization. And once they give that same guarantee that the previous Prime Minister gave with the importation of butane gas, all that excess liquidity in the banks can then get into the market and create a stock market in this country. So I am saying that this is the kind of thinking we need. Okay, who is in there? We talk about big government being the problem. That's what one group was saying one time, who favored more the right-wing type thinking. The problem is not big government. Belize needs a big government. The problem is the big money that is taking over government. That's our problem. It's not big government. We need big government.
Why? Why do we need big government?
Because at this stage of our development, the people need to be able to have opportunities. Give us equal opportunities to be unequal.
But that doesn't translate to big government, Joe. That you could do that with a smaller government. I mean,
I'm saying to you, you will not do it with a small government. If you look at the Scandinavian countries, all of them are in the top 10 of the Human Development Index, and all of them support big governments. No, we are saying big government. For example, I would say that you were talking of health a while ago. This country can afford universal access to healthcare. This country can afford universal access to education. And we can pay for it. We can. So when we talk about big government being a problem, big government is not the problem. It's the big money that takes over government is becoming a problem for us. So I think that if we want to really, agriculture, we are gifted in it. So why don't we begin to value add? And the government can lead the way in it. That's a suggestion I'm making.
I agree with Mr. Koyi about the value added. I, however, believe that, and I think that's what you were trying to say, that government should be creating the demand, because our people cannot afford to do the things that we should be doing. And if government creates a demand, then I agree with the value added. But our people are producing in small quantities. We cannot grow because we try to get financing from the banks, and the banks they're liquid, but they're very risk adverse. Even down to DFC, actually, I think they're the worst. They're worse for risk adversity. And that is not what our people need. Our people need government to create demand. Our people need our banks to be our partners in growth.
Well,
I mean, talking about partners.
Recently.
So, I mean, talking about partners, Ms. Marina and Mr. Koyi, it was brought to my attention during a post that the Social Security Board has partnered with the Mennonites to loan them a significant amount of dollars. How do you both see that relationship compared to the type of relationship that you're like you, Ms. Marina, as a businesswoman, necessarily and been crying for as need? Is that something that you would look forward to discussing with Social Security Board too?
It would be something that I would gladly discuss, because there's so much that we can do if we had the financing. But sadly, those doors are not open for people like me. It doesn't matter how much good ideas I have. It doesn't matter how close I work with government. We have created, between the UDP and the PUP, have created a pyramid economy. And at the top of this pyramid is the elite. And I keep saying the elite, the people, the small percentage, that 4% that Mr. Koyi was talking about, are on the top of the pyramid. And they hold all the wealth, they hold all the land, all the contracts, all the concessions, all the import license. They hold it at the top of that pyramid. The bottom of the pyramid are the working class, the foundation of this country, and we are weak because we cannot support that small percentage that is heavy on top. I don't know if you guys are understanding what I'm trying to say.
No, I understand.
Well, listen, you're painting a dismal picture, but it's obvious that what you're seeing is what really is, and the rest of us can't help but see that. Yeah.
G Mike, I wrote this concept and this concern of mine in a letter that I wrote to Minister Ralph Fonseca in 1999. And I told him that this is before the PUP had lost the election so badly. I wrote to him and I said, my concern is that the decisions that were being made back then are going to crumble the foundation of our country and of the party. And it will be hard to reconstruct that party again. And it has not reconstructed, because the PUP that we see right now is not the PUP that I joined way back when I was 17 years old, 18 years old. You know, and that is the pyramid that the PUP created, that pyramid economy. The UDP continued with it, and the PUP came in again, and they continue with the same pyramid economy because there are no opportunities for our working class. Our working class are designated to become slaves of the tourism industry or slaves of the government. There's very limited opportunity for us, and people like me that are trying to create opportunity for myself, I'm constantly being pushed down.
So can I add something to what the lady had mentioned? This morning, the CEO for Social Security was on the television, and he did mention about the loan to the millionaires from the Social Security funds. But then I asked myself, this very concept about the state leading the way in industrialization, that same money could have gone to that limited liability company set up by the state, and how it would have benefited. Only the government can give you any kind of guarantee. No other individual can. So the Social Security needs to invest money. They have to. But invest it now into this public company. And what we would have been doing, the masses would have been benefiting from it rather than a few selected. So the same Social Security money, which come from the workers and the employers, would have been going back to them. And we have been expanding the base, reducing the unemployment. And we're value-adding agricultural products and enhancing our imports, our exports. So those are the kind of discussions we need to have indeed. You mentioned about the 99. I was to tell you that the 98 policy of the then Syed Musa government, I think was a policy that was supposed to be giving high credit. I supported it 100%. I think the expansionary public sector-driven policy was a damn good policy, and the IDB and all of them could not have disputed it. Unfortunately, whatever may have happened, if it's been overzealous in implementing it, it certainly was not properly implemented. But that expansionary policy was to do exactly what we are talking about. The government only is in the position to create subsidized capital. And that's what we need. That's what I'm talking about, big government. We cannot be depending on a commercial bank, these chartered banks. These chartered banks are not development banks. Yeah. And those high interest rates, obviously, is a disincentive for the industrialization.
And so the government has to short terms on the loans too.
So I would support those concepts. Speaking of the fragile industry upon which we've obviously hinged our bets, no? We see the BPO, the call centers now taking over, and actually seems to be lifting a few people from that abject poverty. Any views on that? And do you see any sustainability in that? Any long term?
It's the only dog in town.
I'm scared for it. I know that it was a temporary. I think it was a temporary relief, and that it's done good in sustaining a lot of young people. But I think it's a dream killer, because I have personally spoken to a lot of these young people that are working there that had other ambitions, but they can't afford to further their education. They can't afford to start a business. They can't.
But they're making money now, and see, can't they put that into their fund?
That's why I said it's something hard to talk about, because I don't believe it. The reason I don't believe it has a future is because I believe that AI will eventually take over, and will take over really fast.
That I agree.
And I think that we're not preparing our population for the advent of AI. I've dove deep into it, and I've read about it, and I've seen what can be done, and I've seen what other countries are doing, and Belize is unprepared. Belize is unprepared for it.
But you're talking about our planners doing what is necessary. I felt that when they gave these people the permission to come in and make their money, that we would have required from them some sort of plan, maybe a further education, training of skills for our people, but get some of them to further their work, no, in electrician, automotive, whatever. And that wasn't done. They just brought them in, signed the paper, get the money, and everybody's happy, no?
Which is why I said it's a dream because our people are.
Say, Greg?
No, I said they got a little bit for their pocket too. That's why they don't pay any
that's what I'm
attention
saying.
to
Yeah,
the
man.
people.
Yeah.
Yes, the young people are working there. They're feeding themselves, but they're stagnant. There's no growth in these BPOs. There's no growth for there. There's no future.
I don't know I don't know they're even managing the little money that they're getting, because they let that in the bling. They go out there to spend a lot of money, and they got money now so they can spend it, not realizing that this money might not be there for too long, and maybe they need to do some kind of investment, no? But
I think Ms. Marin is making a very salient point. I'm glad that she raised it. You see, we get carried away now with BPOs, and then, of course, the government, whichever one it is, will jump up and glorify it and make them feel like, wow, we're creating jobs. It's not about creating jobs for today. It's about sustaining jobs for the future.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think she made a very good point. The future of this is not something we should want to become too dependent on. Yes, it is here. But we quickly want to talk about how we're going to build more of this. No. We have to build for the future. And AI will definitely displace some of those things. I'm convinced that agriculture can be the backbone for this country with the value added to it. That is what we will be able to survive on.
That should
no
be the
country
goal.
Can do without it. None.
That should be the goal.
And AI will not be able to replace what we need.
Go ahead, Lisa.
No, the one thing I wanted to say is that I see these BPOs as a stepping stone. It's not providing a career-driven, sustainable life standard for anyone, like you both have said, but also for those people who don't speak. 1 second. 1 second, guys.
You know, I go back, I look at the Williamson Industries model, that they allow them to come in and make money for 50 years. 50 years they were making profit, and then they decide to fold shop and go. Now, we get to Joe's point, because while the people were there, they were sewing. Many of them were learning how to sew. There were people in management position. Why did we sign something with those people that they could just get up and take everything with them, including the building that they were working out of, down to the foundation of the building they ripped up and took with them? Was there nothing signed in place to say, listen, this is an industry that you're making the money, people are learning what to do, but they have to eventually be able to take over from you when you leave. Could not the government have invested in a few sewing machines at least and kept this going? Where do we go?
Yeah, I could maybe add something to it, because I myself was involved with Williamson on behalf of the government. Of course, I was in government, and we thought it was a good idea, no doubt, because what we were doing is that we were bringing in the semi-finished product. We were finishing in them in Belize, and then we send them out back. Mm-hmm. So it was in fact creating employment, and it did create some contribution to the GDP, not very much, because much of it was from outside, and the value added to it was more the labor. So that was good for us. But the truth about it, when they realized that unionism was going to be the thing, that is one of the things that what they were opposed to. So it was easy for them to pick up and go, because they are looking for cheap labor. Mm-hmm. They are just like what's happening in China.
Yeah, but there was nothing in the agreement that was to say, because when that equipment that they use, all of the money came from withholding taxes. They don't pay any taxes until they recover their expense, correct? Or the investment.
No, the only thing that
they always owned it. It's still there.
So what happened, because there would be no custom duties on them, because they would not pay any of the indirect taxes, because the destination was not Belize. So the only exemption they were getting in the beginning was from the income tax, the profit that they were making. And remember, Williamson is big in the world. When I say that, Williamson had their market. They were sewing in Belize to supply their markets outside. But what happened with them is they're looking for cheap labor. That's what they were looking for. And when they realized that they may have to pay the workers more, evidently they packed up. But the point you are making, Mr. Chairman, and I fully agree with you, too, we need to be careful, as what I think that the lady is referring to. You see, when you allow your economy to become too dependent on this kind of one-man ownership thing, when they hold the country to ransom, that was why when they wanted to come and invest, they wanted to do a multi-billion, in fact, I want to say almost $1 billion investment. And this was more in the independent, and the surprise refused. He said he does not want it. He said because they are too big for us. And I agree with him. Sometimes they are too big for us. So when they pulled out, look at what they did. I mean, there was so many people left unemployed. So we must learn from that. I'm glad that you raised that point, Mr. Chairman.
Nancy, how does a person go about becoming a member of the Belize? Is the Popular Front? BPF, right? BFF.
Michael, with that for the future.
Yes.
Belize People's Front.
Belize People's Front, yeah. BPF. Yeah.
Well, we do have an application form that people would send in to us. You can get it
you have
online.
A website? Yep, a website.
We do have a website, and you could write into us or just ask us. People ask us on social media sometimes. More recently, we've been getting a lot of people that are concerned on what's going on. When we explain what we're doing, we invite them to our meetings. We have meetings online every month. We do have in-person meetings as well sometimes. But you can write in your application letter, and you just need to get 2 recommendations. And we have a committee that reviews those applications.
What kind of organization is it? What's it? That's a political party? Is it a political party?
Who's asking that, Mr. Koyi?
Yes.
Yes, it's an alternative political party that I founded, and we started developing in 2015. We didn't get accepted by Election and Boundaries until maybe months before the last election.
I recall that you were in fact a leader of a movement, a political party, but this is the same one you're referring to.
This is the same one.
Do you think we should have
Can I ask you a question on that since you mentioned it? Don't you think that these political parties should be made to register just like NGOs and give them a legal status?
We are the only political party that insisted in we couldn't get a registration or anything like that because it doesn't exist, but we insisted that we got some kind of formal, at least a letter from the Attorney General's office to say that we are a political party. And I fought and begged and went there so many times that they gave me something. I just wanted something in writing because Election and Boundaries was not respecting our right at that point to run for office. They were not sending us the voters list. They were rejecting us and all corners. So I insisted that that Attorney General's office gave us something in writing, and they did. So we do have that, and we went to Election and Boundaries, and thank goodness Election and Boundaries respected that, and that's how we eventually, a few weeks before election, they gave us our voters list, and we still contested the election. We did horribly, but everything was against us. I believe that that now we will see a little bit of a difference. I don't believe that 2025 is the year that an alternative party will win an election for sure. I don't think that we are prepared, and I don't think that the system is prepared to have an alternative party at this point. But hopefully changes can be made, and I believe that in 2030 will be the year that we will see drastic changes with alternatives in government. And I hope to God we never win a landslide the way the PUP won, because it's detrimental to democracy. I do hope that we get some candidates in to create a balance.
But you said just now that the system seems to negate or meditate against it. Why? Which system?
The political system that we're governed by, and the status quo system. that refuses to accept alternatives. One of the example about when I talk about the status quo system is not a system that is legal or that is legislated. It's a system that by tradition. Example, we are not in any of the committees that govern election and boundaries. I have begged, I have made my case to the PM, and the answer is a simple no. You didn't make enough votes. You didn't garner enough support for us to consider to put you in these committees. When decisions are being made in election and boundaries, we are the last to know. We only know if we hear it on the media with everybody else, while the two major political parties are meeting and making decisions on our behalf. My reaction to that, to the PM, is that even if we have 2 votes, even if we garnered 2 votes, those are 2 Belizeans that their rights need to be respected and that we should have them involved. It should be a government of inclusion and not exclusion. But they constantly exclude the alternative parties from decision making. And it's detrimental.
Ms. Marine, didn't a couple of...
Go ahead.
Go ahead with your point. Oh, I was going to say, didn't a couple of election cycles ago, the third party won some seats in the city council? I think they won like 3 or 4 seats in a election, didn't they?
Yes, that was in Belmopan, I believe.
Yes.
All right.
Was it only in Belmopan?
I believe it was only in Belmopan, if I remember well.
Okay.
The most of one of, a couple of our candidates got like 100, 200 votes in the last election, but that was the most, and that was in the north.
I would like to.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I would like to differ with you that the system militates or is not receptive to third party. I don't think that is the problem in Belize.
It doesn't favor third party. It doesn't favor third party.
I don't think so.
I mean, even someone in the popular heights of the UBAD movement, they only got 89 votes. So we kind of quite understand the position third parties are placed in within the structure of our.
But you said it's not the system. Then is the electorate are not receptive to them. Is that it?
What I'm saying to you,
it's both.
Sorry.
It's both.
I have been there with all of those parties that you spoke about, the UBAD, the PAC, every one of them. They would never have been able to make it because a third party is not a third party just by saying I'm a third party. I will give a theoretical position, and you tell me if this would not
work. But third parties in other countries does very well, Mr. Coe. So it is something.
But that's why, because you are not willing, because you are not prepared to look at what is a third party is not the party that we are thinking about in Belize. If you have right now, and I'm giving you a theoretical position, hypothetical. Let's say you can be bankrolled with the millions of dollars, $1 billion. Money will not be a problem. You have good human resource, good candidates. You have your principles clearly defining the purpose of your movement. Mm-hmm. You will tell me that with 31 candidates out there, well-financed, not to go and buy votes, but to do what is necessary in terms of promoting the principles that define them. I am convinced that they can win an election. It has nothing to do with the country not ready for it. They are not ready because what comes up as third parties, unfortunately, cannot get the kind of backing that they would need. You cannot begin a third party without a full-fledged representation. You won't make it.
Yeah, that kind of little more complicated than that, though. That kind of like they simplified a bit there.
I mean,
there's too much in there.
Examples.
And I like Nancy's term of alternative as opposed to third party. I like the alternative party instead. But you want to give me an example?
But see, a lot of time, third parties are not structured to actually take governance, but to align and to try to persuade and move with one of the winning party to make a more amenable government to the people. And we see that in many other countries. Israel has it. Some parts of the Scandinavian countries, Ms. Marin mentioned, has similar type of third party.
A coalition kind of thing, you mean?
Yes, yes.
Before we leave,
that then aligns with whoever the winning party is to form the government and to try and make the government be more amenable to some of the concerns and interests of the people.
Mr. Morrison, those third parties you are referring about are nothing like what we are talking. But I'd like to come back to what Ms. Marin is saying, and I agree with the chairman. That word, alternative, what you need to add to the alternative is credible. If you can get a credible alternative, you can form a government.
Correct.
That is the belief I think I have and hold strongly to. It's not a case that you just do not have the kind of resource that the two political parties have.
Let us.
Yes, Mr. Koye, I think you did miss. I agree with you, and you did miss in the beginning when I said it was not the electorate that failed us. It is the alternatives that failed the electorate. We did not present a strong enough platform. We did not present good enough candidates to change the mind of the alternative and the swing voters. So I as a leader of an alternative party take full blame for not presenting what the electorate needs to see to gain their confidence, and I hope to change that in the near future.
One thing is for sure, both parties have left us lacking. Both parties have failed us terribly, and it might indeed be time for an alternative. And we leave this with a feeling of hope and a message of hope. Mr. Koye believes that there is a chance, and we wish you well, Ms. Marin, going forward. We leave you. We give you any final words that you want, any message that you want to send out there. Anything you want to leave us with?
Sure. I first want to thank all of you for being so gracious and having me on your show. I am grateful. I am humbled that I get this opportunity. And to Belizeans out there, I do know that the alternatives have failed you, but trust that I am doing everything that I can to prepare the caliber of candidates that we need to take back our country from all of the issues that we just discussed and even more. It is needed. I hear it. Sometimes silence is stronger than being too loud and too vocal, because we take the time to listen, to digest what the people are saying, to understand it, and then to move upon it. We are organizing, our people are taking training so that we can present the platforms and the type of candidates that are deserving of Belize. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Marina. I always wanted to talk to you, so really appreciate the opportunity you coming on.
All right, people, we're out of time. That's it. Thank you guys for being here again. Lisa, Deidre was on with us for a while. She's hi, Lisa.
I'm here.
I'm here still. Good night, Miss Marin. Thanks for joining.
Good night. Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome, and thank you. I have one more thing to say, G. Just wanted to our audiences out there who wished me a happy birthday today. I
how could we not? Yeah, no, Gregory, that was your fault.
Thank you to everyone for their
Greg, that was Gregory's job. Gregory should have been.
I told her already I was gonna sing for her, but she didn't want to.
No, there it is. Lisa, happy birthday to you.
Thanks,
folks. It is Lisa's birthday. I was remiss. My bad.
Happy birthday.
But happy birthday to you. I'm wishing you many more. All right.
Thank you guys for their greetings and the blessings. I appreciate it.
We'll go out with Greg singing happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
See, right? Take it away. We're good.
Happy birthday to you.
Oh boy.
Happy birthday, dear Lisa. Happy birthday to you.
And I hear thunder. I hear raindrops on the roof. I'm a wet night.
Don't we need it?
Thanks a lot, guys. Next week, same time, same place. Come on.
with a coffee, and we royal. I am a royal coffee. My style sticky like toffee.
She is. I like her energy.
Royal coffee, and my style sticky like toffee. How could you call me ugly when a loon pretty girl steady chase me? Minor, tell you things gonna make you catch feelings. Your mere existence, you want left to examine. Ebenezer me gone, me know for the squeeze dumpling. Believe woman sweet like you pumpkin. See me, but you don't know me. Confident, say that me bossy. Inquisitive, you call me nosy. Defend me rights, holler at me chancy. Me know this show no mercy. We don't take no back chat from nobody. You know how feel like me, but you must respect me. Tell this more. I am a royal coffee. My style sticky like toffee. You coulda holla say me ugly, but a lone pretty girl steady chase me. Me cool and deadly. Machine gun Kelly. Machiavelli. Stay ready like Freddy. We have woman plenty. Woman the city, woman the country. You coulda act like you don't want believe me. Ask the white, that me bally. I am a royal coffee. My style sticky like toffee. You coulda holla say me ugly, but a lone pretty girl steady chase me. Royal coffee, and my style sticky like toffee. How could you call me ugly when a lone pretty girl steady chase me? Lot of sexy woman come out of the valley. Me like the way the body move when they party. And a bitch white and Alta Leslie. And the one name Gilda Courtney. Dano Jam, Sadamus Jelly from me Lille. Me know where we do with me till it. Me grow up as a bedroom bully. Bucket with vein full up them belly. I am a royal coffee. My style sticky like toffee. You coulda holla say me ugly, but a lone pretty girl steady chase me. Royal coffee, and my style sticky like toffee. How could you call me ugly when a lone pretty girl steady chase me? I am a royal coffee, my style sticky like toffee. You coulda holla say me ugly, but a lone pretty girl steady chase me. Royal coffee, and my style sticky like toffee. Disappear for a while, but now I am back again, introducing a new style, them call the Link Bang. I am a musical zen, violating the charts again. Disappear for a while, but now I am back again, introducing a new style, them call the Link Bang. I am a musical zen, violating the charts again. Link Bang, no matter if you're 50 or 10, Link Bang. Big bully in a pen, Link Bang. Rooster or hen, this one, yeah. Creme de la creme, Link Bang. No matter if you're 50 or 10, Link Bang. Big bully in a pen, Link Bang. Rooster or hen, this one, yeah. Creme de la creme. First, make we see how far your back bend. If you don't know how, get less of a current. Turn your body round like a smoothie or the blend. New dance trend. Style we no borrow, style we no lend. For sure, we no the beg no friend. From in the thing far way back when for the elders and the children. Can't do the stinky leg unless you do it like charge. Back it up in the garage. Make them know we squad living large. Hold a salute every sarge. Disappear for a while, but now I am back again. Introducing a new style, them call the Link Bang. I am a musical zen, violating the charts again. Disappear for a while, but now I am back again. Introducing a new style, them call the Link Bang. I am a musical zen, violating the charts again. Link Bang, no matter if you're 50 or 10, Link Bang. Big bully in a pen, Link Bang. Rooster or hen, this one, yeah. Creme de la creme, Link Bang. No matter if you're 50 or 10, Link Bang. Big bully in a pen, Link Bang. Rooster or hen, this one, yeah. Creme de la creme. We like when you shake it. Never gonna DR, we gon' fake it. Entire yam, authentic. Mama take 9 months to make it. Act like you didn't need Johnny cake before you bake it. Take a pass to the cars, then twerk it. Then your style you can't buy the new market. All of the style, Link Bang surpass it, yo. Watch when they blaze it. Have the tremble like we don't tease it. Tell the DJ, rewind it. Bust a sweat and work it. Disappear for a while, but now I am back again. Introducing a new style, them call the Ling Bang. I am a musical zen, violating the charts again. Disappear for a while, but now I am back again. Introducing a new style, them call the Ling Bang. I am a musical zen, violating the charts again. Ling Bang, no matter if you're 50 or 10, Ling Bang.
Right now, chilling like Dylan, feeling on the Ave in my woo-woo. Slipping into darkness with nothing to do. Mindless from choking, from smoking the woo-woo. Stop, I got to get the bottle of woo-woo. This food bumped into me, started with his burr. Talking out the side of his neck, he said, some man even hammer with 5 hammer. Them boy they insane. Next thing you know, baby drama with baby mama. Baby drama. Next thing you know, baby drama. No bother call me name. School where me gone that Ebenezer. Ebenezer, Ebenezer. School where me gone that Ebenezer. Them teach me for use me brain. So when me hold a mic, me blow fire, blow fire, blow fire. When me hold a mic, me blow fire. This is not a game. See why the hammer with one hammer, one hammer, one hammer. See why the hammer with one hammer. Try if we do the same. The favorite hammer and the sledgehammer, sledgehammer, sledgehammer. The favorite hammer and the sledgehammer. Not try if we do the same. And to Jaja, all the power, all the power, all the power. And to Jaja, all the power. That he keep me sane. If one black man they suffer, 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 suffer. Suffer, suffer, if one black man they suffer, suffer, all a wiffy blame. Now watch how the lyrics get hotter, 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 hotter. Watch how the lyrics get hotter, hotter. Spit in flames, keep it smooth like butter, 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 butter. Keep it smooth like butter, butter. Drop tune like rain. See why the hammer with one hammer, one hammer, one hammer. See why the hammer with one hammer. Try if we do the same. My favorite hammer and the sledgehammer, sledgehammer, sledgehammer. My favorite hammer and the sledgehammer. Not try if we do the same. Lot of people them a follow a Lara, follow a Lara, follow a Lara. Lot of people them a follow a Lara. Sell their soul for fame. Whole heap of them a killer, 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 killer. Whole heap of them a killer, killer. Till their shirt get stained. They only know about pleasure, 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 pleasure. Pleasure, pleasure, they only know about pleasure, pleasure. They don't know about pain. Leela like feather, 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 feather. Leela like feather, feather. Better hold a lane. See why the hammer with one hammer, one hammer, one hammer. See why the hammer with one hammer. Try if we do the same. My favorite hammer are the sledgehammer, sledgehammer, sledgehammer. My favorite hammer are the sledgehammer. Not try if we do the same. Y'all them a move like salt shaker, salt shaker, salt shaker. Y'all them a move like salt shaker. Simple and plain. Tarzan of a mix with Peter, 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 Peter. Tarzan of a mix with Peter, Peter. If you mix with Jane, streets of New York, soldier, 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 soldier. Streets of New York, soldier, soldier. Things don't change. In a time, new world order, new world order, new world order. In a time, new world order. Never be the same. See why the hammer with one hammer, one hammer, one hammer. See why the hammer with one hammer. Try if we do the same.